Searching for local businesses in Northwest Arkansas just got easier. From restaurants to roofers, boutiques to baristas, FindItNWA.com connects you to the best local businesses with just one click. Discover something local, something great. Visit FindItNWA.com today. Find it fast, find it local, FindItNWA.com. Your legacy isn't just about assets, it's about love. At Hoot Owl Legal, we help you safeguard both. From naming guardians for your kids to planning a meaningful memorial, we make estate planning feel like a gift, not a chore. Start with a free consultation at hootowllegal.com. Tomorrow's too late to say I love you.
It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm here with you today, as always, excited. Every now and then I get to get out of the office. I get to get out of the KUAF radio station sound studio, and I actually get to sit down kneecap to kneecap with people that I interview on this podcast. And this is actually my second time sitting here with Chef Matt Cooper, who is a dear friend of mine, who owns Conifer here in Downtown Bentonville. Technically, it's the third time I've sat with him for a podcast. We've done several. I originally did an episode way back in the archives from Matt's time at the Preacher's Son, because he is a preacher's son. And then we became good friends, and I supported him as he got Conifer off the ground. And what I mean by support is that I actually came and ate the food, as did so many other people. And so now, not to be outdone, Matt has partnered up with an amazing gentleman named Paul Esterer. And Paul is a real estate man about town. He's out of Little Rock with a company called Moses Tucker, but that's not why we're here to talk about it today. Paul and Matt came together to help put together a new farm-to-table concept here in Northwest Arkansas that I think people are really going to be excited about. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Matt Cooper and Paul Esterer to the podcast. How are you guys doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Great to be here again.
I'm glad to have you guys both here. So listen, Paul, why don't you just quickly introduce yourself to our audience? Because this is your first time here on the podcast. And then I'll get to Chef Matt.
Well, just know that I haven't had a bad day. It's all about having fun and being a part of a really energized community. And so I find friendship and community with Chef Cooper. So I'm here today both supporting, partnering, working with, and finding ways to do cool things in Northwest Arkansas. And I'm here because over my 30 plus years of being in Arkansas and being a part of the community, I know that real estate can be a tool for creating place, creating community, creating activization. So born and raised in Ohio, but found myself passionate about the state of Arkansas when I married a young lady some 35 years ago. And therefore we built a home and a family here, and really are excited about taking all the things that I've made mistakes on and learned over the years and putting them into a place and a home out here off Price Coffee Road. So we're here to talk about that, and I'm here to support, advise, and get things done that I think are going to provide tenfold the returns to the community through all the things I just described. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and I do have some other questions for you that I want to pick your brain on with regard to the region of Northwest Arkansas, but we'll get to that before the end of this conversation. So thank you for being here. And Chef Matt, it's great to see you as always. We are actually sitting here inside his beautiful, beautiful restaurant here in downtown Bentonville, Conifer, which if you haven't been, first of all, you just need to come down and eat. The food is amazing. If you have any type of gluten sensitivities, or you are gluten-free, this is the restaurant for you. Chef Matt is an amazing chef. And I mean, his menu doesn't change too often. I mean, it changes seasonally, but I mean, the quality of the food that comes out of this restaurant is simply, I mean, divine. And I say that with all sincerity. And Chef Matt is a friend. He's a friend of the podcast. And so, Matt, welcome back.
Thanks, buddy. Glad to be here. Yeah.
So listen, why don't you give us kind of a rundown? Because, you have your hands full with Conifer, yet you decided that, I want to do something else. And how did this whole concept of RYN come about, especially as you and Paul kind of talked about it originally?
Well, so I think really Conifer was a stepping stone to a dream that I've had for about 20 years. And when I moved back from Portland, Oregon, and wanting to bring just this holistic approach to how we approach farmers and farm to table movement and, and everything else, the kind of with our mentality on how we treat our people, how we talk to our people, how we thrive together. And Paul was actually one of the first people I met when I moved back to Bentonville. And, we've been friends for, some on 10 years now. And he's kind of always been a part of my life and just a huge supporter. And we've been talking and, he's family, just like the people at Conifer are. And probably about 4 years ago, it's a long project. I'm almost 5 years ago, probably. We started talking about some property that we kind of wanted to work with out on Price Coffee Road. And Paul wanted to build a house out there. And there was an existing house. We ended up moving into that. My wife and family ended up moving into that house and kind of renovating that. And it exists on like 45 plus acres. And then over the course of a few years, we were getting, utilities out there and going kind of through the process. We kind of been trailblazing out there, and it's been the slow grind to get to where we are now. And then we really had this vision come together of what we wanted to do at the base of that land, where two existing houses were. One's a historic house that's been out there pre-Civil War that they've renovated a little bit. And then we renovated another little house right next to it that will be kind of it's like we're going to call it the cottage. It'll be kind of a little house that you can stay at, an Airbnb for that entire property, so that you kind of cohesively ties everything that's going on. But really, just like Conifer has this vision of planting seeds in community and increasing the development and the evolution of the community and being a place where everybody can gather, we're doing the same thing with the farm. So RYN is RYN. It stands for Remember Your Name. My grandmother used to always say, we're a reflection of those who came before us and those yet to be. So honor everyone, and we all learn, evolve, and grow together. We can't do it without each other. So with that concept, it's kind of our mentality of how we run Conifer. There's this common thread of planting seeds and being a part of community and really bringing something that other people are not and helping with everything else. And so that's how that was born. The concept is going to be a little bit different than people are used to here. So it's about a 26 seat restaurant. We're going to do about 10 courses. So it's a tasting menu restaurant. We'll eventually have the ability to do larger events and community gatherings. And it's part of, we won't talk about everything today, but it's a part of a bigger vision for the property and the community. But it starts with this beautiful little boutique restaurant that, we offer reservations for, that will, everything we grow on our farm, and the farm will be right there. The name of the farm is Sun Painted Farm, and the idea behind that is you have these beautiful, the sun kind of just comes across that entire valley out there, and the landscape changes every minute. It's one of the most beautiful places that we've been, and Paul and I have the luxury of living on the property, which is great. So that's kind of what we're looking at as a short snippet for the vision for that.
Well, I mean, that's exciting. And you took me on a tour. You walked me through the building itself. And so for those that are listening, if you can just imagine a historic site being reclaimed in a different way, where you're kind of building the restaurant around the historic site, which is really interesting, right? And so there's an old weathered barn across the street. And then you've got, as you said, you've got a couple of homes overlooking the farm itself, and just, it's a real bucolic setting. I know that's the only way I can describe it.
It's kind of funny that there's 6 red barns that are within 100 yards of this, of which really several on our property, several across the street. And when we started looking at the property and this great valley we're within, and I think even if you use those cool things like AI technology to put in what is Sun Painted Farms, this would be their international symbol for how the sun paints the barns years ago, the red barns, create this red hue over time. It was the type of method of how they painted barns, but then the landscape behind it. And so that was the most important thing, was to create a context for RYN, that before you even entered the restaurant, you knew you were at this special place, that our faith in someone else is shaping the earth, the soil, helping shape the people that go in it. So you already feel that before you get there. And it gets you fired up to say, what's inside the door? And then what am I going to experience and take in, that I know where the food came from, all those things. We thought about that, and this place holds that in your mind. So,
I'm glad you mentioned that, Paul, because one of the concepts that I hear over and over again here in Northwest Arkansas is about placemaking and about making something special, right? And in actuality, what I see you guys doing and embarking upon as this project is taking what is already there and creating more awareness, creating access, right? Because, I drove over there, and it's not terribly far from this restaurant here where we are at Conifer. You could probably
get
there.
5 miles.
Yeah, 5 miles, like 10 minutes away. Mm-hmm. You could get there pretty quickly.
Yep.
But you feel like you're a world away. That's the cool part about it. So, and that's really exciting. And so when you think about the setting for this restaurant, there are tremendous possibilities. What can the average or the real restaurant connoisseur expect at this site? Because there aren't that many 10-course restaurants in Northwest Arkansas. I don't think there are any.
Any.
I don't think there are any. There's some, and shout out to Chef Jason Paul. And others.
Yeah.
There's some amazing chefs that are doing, and anything that he puts his hand to, just like you, Matt, comes out special. But
Chef Jason's the only person doing really tasting menus, and with that being the sole purpose kind of the restaurant, and he does an amazing job. And again, we're not trying to compete with anyone. We're literally just trying to kind of fill in a gap and tie in, I think that there's a need for it. Jason's been extremely successful with that. It's very small, so it provides us an opportunity to be even more sustainable than we are at Conifer. So everything that we grow on the farm will serve in the restaurant. And then all the small farmers that we're not able to support at Conifer because we burn through so much stuff, we can use them as well, because where the menu changes at Conifer, once every 2 weeks or every month or seasonally or hyper seasonally, we can change the menu daily. So you'll never really know what's on the menu. That day you might get an email saying, this is what it's going to look like. But what you'll do is, just like any restaurant is comparable to something in, I would liken it to like the things in Spain or Portugal or something like that, because a lot of the influence that in the way that we cook and I cook kind of go towards that level of being thoughtful about the ingredients and things like that. So I think it's a really unique experience, especially for our area, to be able to again, and I'll let Paul speak to the kind of how you feel when you walk onto the property, but inside the restaurant, you'll really be, transported.
Yeah.
We're still in Arkansas, right? But you're going to be transported to a space that feels very different. And, we'll still have the same mentality that we have here at Conifer. It'll still be warm and inviting, and it won't be cold and sterile, and it'll be energetic, and we'll have fun. But the level of service will be different from most of the places that you see here in Northwest Arkansas, for sure.
Yeah. And it'll be one seating per night.
One seating per night.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, we're only going to be open Wednesday through Saturday. That allows us to do private things the other days of the week, and kind of do some community events as well, and reset for the week. A lot of thought and attention is going to go into those 4 days, and an unimaginable amount of thought and attention goes into those 4 days. So really need to be able to do. We'll be there working way more than that, obviously.
Of course.
But yeah, I'll let kind of Paul speak to what it looks like and what it feels like walking kind of onto that property. Everything that we've thought about in my entire career, just like he said, everything that he's thought about and all the, the mistakes that we've made and things like that have come together, and we've really tied all of those things together into an experience where the details really, really matter, right? And we don't have to worry about. The one thing I love about that is Bentonville is this amazing growing scene, and everything's changing all the time. But that also means there's a lot of construction happening all the time, right? And it kind of, when you're talking about building a restaurant, it's really important to have this, the feeling from the time you get out of your car to what does that look like, to how you walk into the restaurant, to all those things like that. You can't really control any of that especially around downtown Bentonville with all the things that are changing. So I'm really excited about being able to control the experience from the time people get out of their cars, because the property's ours and there's nothing in the way. And I think that's really I think that's something that will really be able to set us apart. Like we have our own experience out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you know what they say, and Paul, I'm sure concur to this. Any city that has multiples of cranes in the skyline, that's evidence that something's going on.
Happening.
So something's happening.
Sure. Well, the people make up this area, which is why we all enjoy it. There's just positive energy in a world that has. This is a place that I just feel like you can be who you want to be and experience what you want to experience. And there's just positive towards how do we all work together to make this place even better. So
yeah,
cool.
So specifically for you, Paul, when you first got up here to Northwest Arkansas, what was your original idea or conception about this area before you got here?
Outside of around the University of Arkansas, within 4 block by 4 block, it lacked place, it lacked identity, it lacked its telling of a story. It didn't have an identity that you could really resonate and say, okay, I know I'm here. I know I'm in Memphis. I know I'm in Austin. You liked it, but you didn't know why it hadn't told its story yet.
Yeah.
What's amazing about this is it allowed each of the 5 cities, 6 big cities, to kind of tell their own story. So we're better than a Dallas, which is just big with suburbs. We are like communities that are connecting with their own schools, with their own identity. And you can experience it on one night, 2 or 3 different places that have that experience. So that's why our secret sauce is that we're made up of multiple communities, multiple interesting areas, not one big MSA. We're this really interesting. That's where I saw the opportunity, and it's played out that way. It's connected through trails and effective things that take you off that hard surface to something that's really more relatable to people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. And you know, you're right, because I think for those that are listening that are not from this area, what Paul said is exactly right. When you go to certain major, and I call them metropolises or large regional areas, sometimes it's hard to get your hands around them. Mm-hmm. You can get your hands around Northwest Arkansas. And I say that because, you know, Bentonville has its own feel. Rogers has its own feel. Springdale has its own feel. Fayetteville had
Bella Vista may be the secret sauce that we didn't even know exists.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's just right. I mean, you can see Bella Vista from where this farm is. So, yes. So that's, the proximity. But like I tell people all the time, from Bella Vista down to the Bobby Hopper Tunnel, from Eureka Springs over to Siloam, there's a lot of special things happening in this area that really make it unique. And so when you first got that land over there, Paul, did you, in your mind, think that, man, I could have a farm down there with a restaurant of this type?
Yeah, I didn't want to say it out loud too much, but other than to Cooper, because if my wife found out, she'd be like, what are you doing? Why are we doing
it? You need another project, right?
Project. Ironically, it was one of those things that it really came together in such a special way that we hoped it would happen exactly like this, but we didn't want to get ourselves too wound up that this was it. But everything has really played out. It's been a lot of hard work. And Chef has so many people that are followers of him within the community that work for him, that work with him. I say work with him because it's that spirit that you can have a great idea, but it's who's doing it. We've got a great team with Luke Jenkins helping lead up our construction development project out there. And then the trails are surrounded by it. Handcut Hauler is on 2.5 sides of our property. So people bike through there. And then it's probably the major road for all gravel and road bikes is the road. So on a Saturday, there'll be 1,000 bikers that come by it. So it is the center and required for all circles and loops for both the active person, the people that like to get out and drive, the people. So we couldn't be more lucky that it all seemed to work in the right direction. That's why we had no choice, but this was it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, we had to. This is our heritage project. This is our legacy project.
I grew up on a vineyard. Our family's 60 years owns Marco Vineyard. We still own it today. We were the first vinifera winery and outside of Ohio, outside of Cleveland. So I grew up on a tractor doing exactly this, creating place just in a different way. Yeah. So this is coming home for me full circle.
And I grew up in small rural communities. So all my friends were farmers and, I was always so heavily connected to agriculture and the land and being able to be there again is really exciting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that, as I look at the endeavors that you've undertaken, Matt, I think it's really exciting to see how you've grown. I'd be curious to know, what would you share to those up and coming restaurateurs that are in the area? Because you've cut your teeth in a lot of different ways. You've worked with other people, then you've stepped out on your own to do things. I mean, you even had a side deal during the pandemic, and I remember talking to you while you were doing a private chef thing for a while there. You've had a chance to really, from a restaurant perspective, you've had a chance to try and do a lot of different things. How has that prepared you for this moment right now?
I think it's, I think I'm about as prepared as I'll ever be to be able to do this. I think that as far as the area goes, what's so beautiful and special about Northwest Arkansas is that there is such an amazing amount of support with people in the community, with chefs and entrepreneurs and business owners that are trying to change things, right? And more, we've started talking about what separates us and what makes us different, not to brag, but we're trying to start a movement. Like what Paul and I are trying to do is try to start a movement. You have some amazing farms out in that valley already. You've got Tuckaway Farms, and I had dinner with them last night. They're very dear friends. You've got Turnbuckle Farms, Melissa and Adam Millsap, that moved from Springfield, Missouri, that are doing really amazing things. They're right on the edge of Bella Vista right there. They've got a beautiful little house and a little property, and they've already got their farm. So our intention is to really, do what we've been thinking about for a really long time, which is create this, we need more small farms back in not only in the state, but in the United States. 90-something% of all agriculture in Arkansas leaves the state or leaves the country, right?
Yeah.
And it's not even for, Arkansas is one of the biggest, especially, my mother worked for Riceland Foods as a leading food technologist, but, Riceland Foods produces, an insane amount of rice for the rest of the world. In 97, they were producing
the largest producer of rice.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were producing like 70% of, Japan's rice in 1997, before we started putting things in our food and stuff like that. So I think it's just really interesting, the amount of support that you have here. And then what it does is it allows you to do things that you would never be able to do, especially in the hospitality industry. Like, myself being the only owner of Conifer, there's no investment behind this. It's just, myself and my team cutting our teeth and really doing it together. Within 6 months, we offered full coverage healthcare for all of our people, do paid vacation for all of our servers, and even all of our servers, and at a certain hourly rate. So it's really about trying to, like, I woke up in the middle of the night and had a thought about, like, why can't we do this for our people? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just fighting that norm. It's like, oh, well, everybody else does it this way. I'm like, but we don't have to do that way, right? Yeah. And we have such an amazing support from the community that it allows us to be able to offer things not only to our people, but to the community that I couldn't see us being able to do in any other environment, honestly. Like, I'd be too scared to do it, right? And that's what I think what really sets Northwest Arkansas apart, is like the support is unfathomable. It's amazing. It's great.
It is. And, I think as you say, what you just shared about your team, it really is like a family. And I remember looking at the excitement as you described to me how much money you left on the table because you wanted to make sure that everybody had health care on your team. And so we see that in a lot of businesses here in Northwest Arkansas that are holistically trying to take care of it. Because if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers.
It's a successful business model, right? Like, it's good to be around. My grandmother used to say it's good to be good, but also there's always a benefit to being good. You get to witness people change and evolve and grow through the support that you've given. And, I would say the love and support always comes back. You know what I mean? Like, we've parted with people in the past and stuff like that, but it's always just because maybe it's not been the right fit for them. And we wish them the best. And that was their journey and this is ours, right? So, we all make mistakes and things like that, but we try our best to do a good job. We've got about probably collectively like 100 and something years. Like when we did our first podcast about Preacher's Son, I have about probably about 4 or 5 people from that time that are in this restaurant now. Yeah. One's the GM. Yeah.
That came with you.
Yeah. Haley Bowman is the GM now. She started with me as a server like 10 years ago. And at the old press room when it was in the Scotch and soda space, David Lopez is my lead server. He started with me at Preacher's Son. You've got London Daniel, my executive sous chef, that started with me in Little Rock. It's opened 6 restaurants with me. And, just to be able to see their path and see them grow up and still, for some reason, still want to be around me is pretty phenomenal as well, because I'm all over the place all the time. But just like Paul said, it's no one works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
they're working alongside.
Everybody works with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that really is important, into the mentality of not only this area, but, the hospitality industry. And, we really are striving to change things, something that we're really proud about. It just kind of organically happened. But, we've got, the staff out at the farm, next to myself. And, eventually because that's probably a question like what's going to happen with Conifer. We've got an amazing executive chef that we brought on, Jacob Burrell, originally from California and kind of everywhere else, and worked for some just really, really amazing restaurants there to bring his talent. We kind of jam on the same exact mentality because we both kind of trained out there. And he's just been able to kind of effortlessly flow into service here. And again, you know, our creative minds really think alike. We view food the same. We view our ethos the same, how we treat people, how we encourage our family, restaurant family. And so he'll be kind of taking the helm with London here while I get that up and running. And then eventually and inevitably, I'll jump back and work in both restaurants. I think I'll go crazy if I'm not on the line, but eventually I'll jump back from both restaurants. But the staff over there at the family over there at the farm, like everyone's been here at Conifer for some odd 6 months now. So we've just been stacked, you know, so that we all understand how this family works, because it's one family. It's two restaurants, but it's one family. So really for us to be able to do that. But out there we've got, you know, it just kind of organically happened. Like our staff out there is 100% just amazingly creative women.
Yeah.
So really, really excited about that.
Well, that's exciting. And you've also supported others that have stepped out on their own to get their own restaurants off the ground.
100%.
Yeah,
trying to help everyone we can. And that's part of that mentality of, you know, this doesn't always have to be the place for you. Like we're a small restaurant and trying to be sustainable. So it's like, if you come in, there's nothing wrong with you know, us getting people, and that's us putting them on their path, right? Like I want to learn here. I want to train here. I want to have a safe place to successfully fail and learn everything, you know, and that gives them the opportunity to learn, grow here. And then with our support to be able to help us get them out to be able to do their own thing, whether it's, you know, however whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Well, you know, so I'd love for you to share a little bit about how have the local producers received the news of RYN and what was expected. I'm assuming you started planting seeds early on with people that you knew they were maybe supplying Conifer with local food and produce.
Right.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I think people need to understand at Northwest Arkansas, we have a lot right in our own backyard, a lot.
Yeah.
And I say that because I'm on the board of Ozarks Natural Foods. Shout out to them down in Fayetteville. But, you know, 12% of all of the business that we do is with local producers.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get to 20%. So it's like, you know, and it's like, but that's a big deal. And I think even more so nowadays in the climate that we're in, it's important for us to be able to give back locally to those that are out there trying to make things happen on a daily basis.
Right. So the farm is again, it's trying to take what we do here at Conifer, narrow it even further, support more people if we can. So again, we burn through so much local stuff. Like we have to kind of go, just like most restaurants have to go to some commodity stuff during different seasons. So the aim and the effort at RYN is not only to fill that gap so that we're just able to use local food all the time, but also be able to be an outlet, and this is part of a bigger conversation, to be able to help other farmers eventually with, you know, experimenting and growing things and stuff like that. So our farms that we work with right now, they've known that for a really long time. They're really excited. We're still giving our support to all those people that we support here at Conifer. It doesn't mean that we're going to be like, oh, we have our own farm now. No, it's the complete opposite. We now have an outlet to keep that locality flowing even more. We'll have a farm stand out at the farm that'll not only support our farm, but it'll support all neighboring farms. So we'll have produce and goods from other farms in the region and area and showcase them as well. Again, it's all about community and growing that. And we'll have some things. And like Paul said, we're right on that bike trail. So like people will be able to pull up on a bike ride on a Saturday, go into the farm stand, chill out and just look at the beautiful view and stuff like that. Obviously the restaurant won't be open for that purpose, but you know, it really gives us kind of the opportunity to fill in the gaps and do something truly unique and special.
Yeah. When is at the time of recording this is March of 2024. When do you plan to open RYN?
Yeah,
that's like the $1 million question, right?
Question.
I mean,
we can edit this later.
You don't have to put a specific date and time down.
But, no, we're good. Yeah. we're going to open in May.
Okay.
So we are right there. Everything's coming together now. All of our, you know, we've been doing R&D with the restaurant. My executive chef, Brandy Barnes, who's a local as well, that had moved out and been in China and other places and come back and was working for Sweet Freedom Cheese with Jessica, you know, and she'll be our executive chef. Christine Irwin, who is my sous chef at Conifer. She's actually building the farm with Chloe from Honest Dirt Farms. You know them. They work with you guys. So Chloe's going to be our farm manager for our farm. a few days a week. And then we have an amazing other farmer named Mallory who's working with her. But Christine, it's kind of, again, it's about bringing all that knowledge together. So we have different people doing different things. The executive chef, Brandy, she's getting everything ready from an R&D standpoint. I'm managing both projects with Paul. Christine, my Sue, is working on the farm, building the farm with it. So we all have that approach and understand. And then eventually all of us will work on the farm as well.
Yeah.
So we understand everything.
So between you, Matt, and Paul, is this like the first phase of something bigger that you have in store for this area? And, again, you don't have to give away all the secrets, but I'm just curious to know what your thought process is, because I can see your brain working.
It's kind of like when you take a mission to space, hey, are you just going to go to the moon? You're going to keep going farther than that. I think we got to get this open the next 60 days, which, we're on pace to do. And then I think both the property there and other places, I think when I see people like Chef Cooper and the reason why we partner in this is we both, we sometimes partner, sometimes we do things on our own, but I think the way that he serves others almost more than himself sometime, I think it finds passion in others giving as well. And so I think the spirit out there is going to allow us to do more on the property potentially as we see fit, that I think will create to an even cooler experience, both from a hospitality standpoint. The guest house next door you can stay in, it could be a cabin or something around a little pond or lake. And then there could be some other expanded agriculture opportunities. I think I want to make sure it's super clear on Sun Painted Farm and with RYN is that there'll be this elevated experience. It's a limited nights, number of weeks, really special, unique experience that feels very like you going both back in town, but in time, but also experiencing something really unique and special going forward. The property itself will be educational. There'll be opportunities for you to engage in it year round, seasonally during certain harvest times. And then I think there's a chance for us to have more inexpensive, what I would say, experiences for food, for agriculture, enjoyment, for retail, for merchandise that would really just go to support that farming community that we talked about. So there's going to be different levels of experiences that happen all the time. And that's where there'll be both expansion on that property. And then I would go wherever Chef wants to go with other ventures, because I do think it's really important. Sometimes you can talk about things, but I think this is where we just put it into action and said, let's try it. And there's always a risk of failure. There's always a risk that it's not going to work out. We're doing it with joy and love and with the support of our families and support of the community. We're going to crush it and have fun doing it. So no looking back.
Well, and I love that. I love how you shared it that way, because I think sometimes you do have to, you have to get out of the boat, right? Yeah. And try something. And then as I always like to say, don't look down, just keep looking straight forward. And it's so funny as you were describing the plans of building RYN, Matt, I was thinking about like French Laundry in Napa and how that type of restaurant. And I remember my buddy, and a shout out to my very dear friend, Po Sun Chin. He kept talking about, man, we got to go to French Laundry. We got to go. Took forever to get a seat at this restaurant. Yeah. I mean, like we're talking years. Yeah. But it was more than worth the price of admission. I mean, it's an experience that you just...
but it's hard. It is hard to execute. I think we're going to do the best we can to go execute. I think that's why setting the table and the chairs for the food to then speak for itself, so to speak. That's why we probably spent more time. We deconstructed a house.
Yeah, we did.
Carefully reconstructed. And I say that because when you tear off the walls and you find that there's an old kind of Civil War era house that they built over it, do you want to give up that history, or do you want to start embracing okay, what happened? What was going on here? What was the issues? And then this has been a active farm since Price Coffee and their family established, the 500 acres around it of both cattle, apple trees, other vegetable products. This has just been a farm, and all we've done is I've always restored old historic buildings in super urban settings, but never have I done like this really eclectic farm where I'm really spending more time understanding the topos, the earth, the soils that it goes into, the amazing Little Sugar, that the creek that runs just 1,000 yards to our north, Brush Creek where it enters Little Sugar Creek, and then all the trail. And so I think the amount of animals out there, that's about our only thing that can deter us right now. Is there must be Noah's Ark offshore
of deer.
There's every animal 2x2 comes through at nighttime, and they've been here for longer than us. So we want to respect that there's 1,000 animals. Yeah. At the same time, we're going to have to figure out how to share the crop, and they can't share the land with beets. If they take our beets, it's going to be
going to be a problem. Yeah, no, I know. Well, and I would certainly encourage folks once this gets up and running to check it out. I would imagine, are you guys going to maybe run some schools through there and let some kids come through the farm and check it out?
We'll still do all of the educational things that we do currently at Conifer. So we work with the Ignite program. We work with Brightwater to do their internships. I think that's part of what Paul and I were talking about, being like, the hub, and that's part of that bigger vision. Like, we don't know yet. Like, we have ideas of what we want to do. And that's why, you have the restaurant model that is open that's open and limited. And it's open and limited to all the things that we've talked about, being able to have the ability 3 days a week to be able to do anything and everything that we can envision that brings the community into it, whether it's funneling education and working with Marshall at Brightwater to get kids interns to see what it looks like to come in and go from seed to growing to table and what that sustainability looks like. I still, if we didn't have the relationships with our farmers that we do and partners, I wouldn't know that as a professional chef, I wouldn't know what that looks like. So to be able to offer that as an experience and see it, and then, as far as diners as well, to be able to walk out of the restaurant, choose not to walk straight back to the parking lot and walk around and through the farm at nighttime to be able to see and, everything that we do and know that, like, oh, you just had that on your plate. It's a really unique experience. And it's one that I think we really need the transparency from as well. It's not, we've always kind of been an open book. We say, we're local first, we're regional, then sustainable. We do the best we can after that. And we make our mistakes just like everybody else. But we really do strive for that thoughtfulness first about who's it going to help closest first.
Yeah.
And that makes our job a lot harder, honestly, than me just picking up the phone and ordering something. Being gluten-free and being able to accommodate any dietary restriction is really what we do at Conifer and what we will do here. And that's not really about trying to be special. That's what any good hospitality concept should do. You should be able to accommodate well within your limitations to be able to do things what your clients and your guests need. And that's a truly unique experience, I think. And I think a lot of people are really striving to do more and more with that. But just like at Conifer, if when you make a reservation for this restaurant, you'll tell us what your dietary restrictions are. And since it's a course tasting menu, you will have that menu presented before you. Yeah. So there won't have to be a conversation about, oh, well, I'm allergic to this or I'm allergic to that. As long as all those things are in the comments, we'll review that with you, just like you would when I was in San Sebastian last year and went to a few restaurants. They're just like, oh, well, you're celiac, you're primarily fish. And they don't ask why. Yeah, it doesn't, because it doesn't really matter if you're allergic or you don't like it. It doesn't matter. Sure. I can't eat meat anymore, so I'm primarily a vegetarian. I can taste things, but so I have my restrictions as well, and I don't want to go somewhere and know that someone's would rather just feed me that. And I understand some chefs are really pushing the envelope of what they want to do, and that's great. Just like at Conifer, we're not going to be the place for everyone. Over there, we won't be the place for everyone, but we want to be able to have something within that property and some experience that is for everyone. Yeah.
Well, I know I'm excited. And, I think our listeners should recognize that, this is my second time sitting with Paul and really getting to know him. And I'm really appreciating Paul's vibe. Matt has been a dear friend and somebody that through thick and thin has been there. And I just want to say to the average listener here, please support this restaurant, because a lot of what Matt Cooper does, he does behind the scenes without fanfare. And other people, need to shout folks out when they're doing good things. But I love the way Matt serves the community at Appleseeds whenever they're doing fundraising programs and special meals there. He's done so much with so many different organizations. And so, there's a group of amazing chefs in Northwest Arkansas that we're privileged to have. And Matt's right up there at the top, along with Chef Elliott of Atlas and so many other greats, Jason Paul and Chef Raphael,
Luke Wetzel and Molly.
Luke Wetzel. You name it, they're everywhere. And so anybody that's thinking about coming to Northwest Arkansas, there's a lot here for you outside of the trails, outside of the weather. This is a place that you can definitely call home. And so many people are doing that on a regular basis.
Got to give a shout out to Mike Robert Shaw at Pizzeria Ruby.
Oh, yes. Chef Michael. he is one of a kind. He is a character's character. Yeah. So, and Boston through and through. Yep. So you gotta love him. So, but yeah. And again, what pizza restaurant do you go into and get gnocchi that's probably some of the best that you've ever had in your life?
100%. Yeah,
So,
I can't eat there, but
I mean, yes, right. I know it is. And that's the only
I worked with him long enough, and he's a dear friend. So.
Yeah,
Well, 15 years ago or 18 years ago, besides what I was saying, there wasn't a lot. The place was not here. Daniel Hintz, who is a true great friend of mine, introduced to me all these chefs, and he'd have them over to their house, and they would all cook.
That's how I met Paul. Yeah,
they would all cook various stuff, and just because they wanted to get away and be with some other chefs, and they just had a blast. I saw this cooperative spirit, which I haven't seen elsewhere, where everyone was so supportive of one another. How do we do it? And we just didn't have a food scene. And so Daniel Hintz and I were very involved with the initiation of Brightwater and developing 8th Street Market together. And that's where I saw all these amazing people that just needed a little support, a little cooperation, which we've gotten from the region, from the Walton family, from others that have really taken this place. And then they're now going to be the mentors for the young folks out there. And so I can't be more excited of what happened in those late 2010 and 9 years to the 12, where we really got this great scene.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And the next generation of chefs and kitchen creatives that come out of Northwest Arkansas are going to be special for sure. So for sure. Well, listen, Chef Matt and then Paul, thank you guys both so much for taking time out of your schedule to kind of share and give us an intimate behind the scenes of RYN and what people can expect. And is the website up yet, or
not
soon.
quite? Soon.
Not quite soon. Yeah. Okay, so we'll make
soon,
sure
because we'll be taking reservations soon.
And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, well, I want the reservation. I want the website so I can get a reservation. Well, all of that will be on the show notes, and we'll make sure that we put some posts out in advance of when RYN actually opens to remind people, because I would love to see all of Northwest Arkansas as well as the whole region support what Paul and Chef Matt are doing, because I think it's a proof of concept that if it gets legs, it's going to be really special for this area. And it's not going to just benefit these two gentlemen and their families. It's going to benefit everybody that supports that endeavor. Yeah.
And for right now, the best way to get in touch with us and see what's happening is we're posting everything on our Conifer Bentonville Instagram, as well as the RYN Bentonville Instagram is up and running, so you can look at updates there. Another thing we'd like to say is we are doing crowdfunding right now for a documentary that we're shooting of the entire process, with some amazing videographers to kind of tell the story of this entire endeavor and to show the struggles and to show what that looks like, and kind of Paul and I's family history and what brought us together. And I think it's really significant. So we've got that up on Indiegogo under RYN. You can check that out. And again, it's just, it's about what we can do and how we can, keep supporting this community and make it to where all of us can, grow, learn, thrive, evolve together.
Yeah. Well, we'll put that Indiegogo link on the show notes so that anybody that wants to support what Chef Matt is doing, as well as Paul, I think I would encourage you to do that. And I remember you mentioning that when I was out at the farm.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to spread the word about that.
Awesome.
So Paul Esterer, Matt Cooper, thank you guys both so much for joining us. And Matt, this is actually your third time on the podcast.
Pretty excited, man.
You're in a limited group of people, but I really appreciate you both. And now I've got a new friend in Paul. Awesome. So thank you guys both so much. And we wish you guys nothing but success.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you for what you do. And it's amazing. Great voice.
Appreciate it. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. To learn more about us, you can visit our website at iamnorthwestarkansas.com. You can check us out online. You can also listen to the podcast. It comes out every Monday, rain or shine. We are on every major podcasting platform. And you can also listen to us on KUAF's Ozarks at Large, typically every Tuesday. We're there, and definitely I would ask that you support KUAF Radio. It's the only NPR station here in Northwest Arkansas. They are doing great work, and we are honored to partner with them. That's all I have for you today. We will see you back here next week with another amazing episode of the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit iamnorthwestarkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.
Attention Northwest Arkansas businesses and talent seekers. Introducing OnboardNWA.com, your hyperlocal job board crafted for our unique community. Struggling to find the perfect match for your job openings? Onboard NWA simplifies the hiring process, connecting you with the region's top talent through tailored talent matching solutions. Whether you're an employer seeking expertise or a professional looking for your next opportunity, Onboard NWA is here for you. Discover more at onboardnwa.com, and let's build the future of Northwest Arkansas together.